The Texas Tech Red Raiders just beat the Texas Longhorns and the Texas A&M Aggies at their own game. What is that game? Recruiting. What am I talking about? They landed a five-star recruit, was able to pull them away from their in-state rivals on the recruiting trail. Pull up a chair or belly yourself up to the bar, and we're going to talk about it right after this word from my sponsor. Ladies and gentlemen, this episode is brought to you by Dutch Miller Automotive, where friends and family pricing means you get the best deal right up front on any new or pre-loved vehicle in stock every time. With brands like Chevrolet, Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, Kia, Hyundai, Ford, GMC, Buick, and Subaru, the Dutch Miller Automotive family is always growing and ready to put you in the car or truck you've been searching for. Check out our inventory across West Virginia at DutchMillerAuto.com or come in today to the home of friends and family pricing, only at a Dutch Miller Automotive store near you. What is up, college sports fans, Big 12 fans, fellow members of Mountaineer Nation? Welcome into another edition of Couz's Corner. Belly yourself up to the bar and let me pour you out this shot of top-shelf college football content. On tap today, we are focusing on the Texas Tech Red Raiders and their verbal commitment they received from five-star wide receiver Micah Hudson. They had been anticipating this commitment for quite a while. Hudson made it public just a couple days ago on his Instagram account. But I'm going to share an article with you about this young man and why this is so important and such a big deal for Red Raider Nation. But the article I'm going to show you is from 24/7, or actually from CBS Sports, who owns 24/7 Sports. Article written by Shehan Jayaraja, and I hope I'm pronouncing his name right, but it says Texas Tech football recruiting. Five-star wide receiver Micah Hudson makes program history with blockbuster commitment. Texas Tech pulled off its biggest recruiting coup in program history when five-star wide receiver Micah Hudson picked the Red Raiders over in-state rival Texas. And Texas A&M was on that list too, as I mentioned. Assuming he signs his national letter of intent, Hudson would rank as the top high school recruit in program history. Hudson rates as the number 19 overall recruit and number 7 wide receiver in the class of 2024 as a 6-foot speedster out of Lake Belton High School in Temple, Texas. As a junior, Hudson caught 65 passes for 1,198 yards and 14 touchdowns. 24/7 Sports national scout Gabe Brooks compared Hudson to former Ohio State receiver Garrett Wilson, another superstar recruit from the state of Texas. And here's what Brooks had to say about Hudson. Hudson is a highly productive high school receiver who's also provided big play punch at running and in the return game, Brooks wrote. Vertical field stretcher with very good initial burst, but also aids in run after catch threat. Hudson's dad, Desmond Royal, also played for Tech from 1985 to 1988. With Hudson's addition, and I think that's critical, and I'll tell you why in just a minute. With Hudson's addition, Texas Tech climbs into the top 25 of the 24/7 Sports team rankings with 19 commits, 5 of which are of the blue chip variety. Texas Tech has been a recruiting afterthought for most of the Big 12 era. Prior to Coach Joey McGuire's arrival, the Red Raiders failed to put together a top half Big 12 recruiting class since 2015. With Hudson's commitment, the Red Raiders are now behind only Oklahoma and Texas, both of which are departing for the SEC, among Big 12 classes. Prior to Hudson, Texas Tech had never landed a 5-star recruit in the modern recruiting era. In fact, prior to McGuire, the Red Raiders only had 49 players total that rated as blue chip prospects over a 23-year period. For comparison, there are more blue chips on Texas's roster next season than Texas Tech has ever recruited. Wow, that's major. I didn't realize that. What a stat. More blue chips on Texas's roster next season than Texas Tech has ever recruited. Man. Even for the University of Texas, however, Hudson would have ranked as the top wide receiver recruit since 2000. The Longhorns desperately wanted his services and will still push for him through the 2023 season. Ultimately, Texas Tech shocking the Horns and landing Hudson sends a message to the entire class of 2024. Texas Tech runs an aggressive passing system with air raid offensive coordinator Zach Kittley leading the way. While Kittley has coached strong players, including NFL quarterbacks Bailey Zappi and Patrick Mahomes, Hudson becomes the best wide receiver prospect to ever slot in his offense. Hudson gives, and I'm skipping some of this, but it says Hudson gives Texas Tech's wide receiver room its top alpha since Michael Crabtree if things go to plan. His presence should instantly elevate the wide receiver room and only help the development of young quarterbacks Baron Morton and Jake Strong. The article goes on to talk about how there's no recruiting juggernaut in the new Big 12 with Texas and Oklahoma off to the SEC. So this is an opportunity for McGuire to make his statement and make Texas Tech the recruiting hotbed or the go-to place in the Big 12, in the new Big 12. That's kind of what the article touches on here. But there's no reason for me to read the entire article. I'll leave a link to it in the description box, and you can read it for yourself. But, man, this is a big get for Texas Tech. There's no doubt about it. Now, does this mean Texas Tech is going to all of a sudden become the recruiting juggernaut, as the article mentioned, of the new Big 12? I don't think so necessarily. I think we need to pump the brakes a little bit. Yes, it's a big get, but it's one player. I heard Drake told yesterday on the Big Locked On Big 12 podcast talk about the same thing. It's one player. Now, if Joey McGuire continues this, and he continues to land a lot of 4- and 5-star guys, and Texas Tech starts becoming the top recruiting, getting the top recruiting classes in the conference year in, year out, or at least stays in the top third of the league, then, or even top half, then maybe we can say, yes, they're the top recruiting team. But I think we need to pump the brakes because we got to remember, guys, they still have to recruit against Texas and Texas A&M. They're not going anywhere. They're just changing conferences. You still have Baylor recruiting in Texas. You now have Houston, a Power 5 school, recruiting in Texas. You still have TCU in the Dallas-Fort Worth market recruiting in Texas. SMU could now be a threat, a bigger recruiting threat in the state of Texas now that they're moving to a power conference in the ACC. You're going to have, like Drake mentioned on his show, you're going to have Colorado now coming in to Texas more recruiting. So you have Coach Prime to contend with now. You could see the Arizona schools potentially coming into Texas more to recruit. If anything, it may get harder for Texas Tech to recruit than easier. Think about that. Because now Texas is going to be coming into these recruiters' homes, these parents' homes, with an SEC badge on their chest. And that could mean something to these Texas kids. Just the same as Texas A&M has been doing the last few years. It might make it even harder to recruit Texas now with Texas and Texas A&M both in the SEC. And now you have even more competition in SMU that I mentioned. And you have these other teams, adding these other teams into the Big 12 may be good for the stability of the conference, but it's going to make, in my opinion, make it harder for the Texas schools to recruit now, even harder than it already is. And then you got UCF, who's right on Texas Tech's heels in recruiting. They're the number 27 class nationally, right behind Texas Tech, who's 23rd. And they're in Florida, right there in Florida. Now, they have to recruit against Florida and Florida State and Miami. I get that. But they're doing their job in recruiting. They're bumping their recruiting up now that they're a Power 5 school. I mean, when you look right now at the new Big 12, nationally, you've got, this is the 2024 class. Now, these are schools that will be in the Big 12 in 2024. As it mentioned, Texas Tech is 23rd. UCF is 27th. Arizona is next at 33rd. TCU is 39th. West Virginia is 45th. Kansas is 47th. Arizona State is 48th. Now, these are, we're in September. This could all change and will change by National Signing Day. I get that. But this is just so far the trend of these schools and where they're going to land in 24, in the 24 class. But I think we need to pump the brakes. And back to the piece of the article that talked about Hudson's dad playing at Texas Tech. That gives them a little bit of an edge here. Just because your dad plays at a school doesn't necessarily mean you're going to land their kid, but it does give them an edge. It does give them an edge, and I think we need to take that into consideration in this case. It doesn't necessarily mean that Texas Tech is going to start getting 5-star recruits every year. Now, it could. I mean, West Virginia has landed 5-star recruits in the past. We've only had a couple, but it didn't necessarily lead to us becoming a recruiting juggernaut all of a sudden in that Western PA, Ohio recruiting territory. So let's pump the brakes a little bit. It's a huge win for Texas Tech. I'm not taking it away from them, and congrats to them. And it's definitely a good thing for the new Big 12 for Hudson to be playing in this conference. But let's pump the brakes a little bit. Texas Tech is still only 23rd in the country in recruiting. They're not a top 10. They're not even a top 20 yet. And this is just one player. He could be a difference maker, but it takes a lot more than one player to win a conference and to get into the college football playoff. So let's slow down a little bit. And as far as how it impacts the Big 12, I want to touch on that too. Yes, it's good for the Big 12. It's great to have players with high level of talent playing in the conference. That's a no-brainer there. But again, it's just one player. In Texas Tech, they're the highest right now, 23rd. They're the highest rated Big 12 team in 2024 in recruiting, and they're 23rd. There are multiple teams from every other power conference ahead of them right now. There are multiple ACC teams ahead of them. Florida State, Clemson, Stanford, because you have to count them in the ACC now, just to name a couple. There are multiple SEC teams ahead of them, obviously. There are multiple Big Ten teams, Michigan, Ohio State, Oregon, USC. So, yes, it helps the Big 12, but the Big 12 is still lagging in recruiting if you look at blue chip recruits, guys. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. The Big 12 is not recruiting at the same level as the other conferences right now. And we can sugarcoat it all we want to. That doesn't always lead to better performance on the football field. I understand that part. And I will always defend the Big 12. But when you look at recruiting, the proof's in the pudding with the star ratings now and where these guys are ranked. Like I said, doesn't always translate to the field, but it does help. I want to hear your thoughts in the comment section. Couz's Corner family, what do you think about Texas Tech landing Micah Hudson, this 5-star wide receiver recruit out of Temple, Texas? Do you think this is going to be the start of a snowball for Texas Tech where their recruiting is now going to just take off? Or do you think this is just a one-off and we need to pump the brakes on Texas Tech all of a sudden being the top recruiting school in the new Big 12? I want to hear your thoughts on it. Also, if you want to support the channel here at Couz's Corner, there are multiple ways you can do it. You can support me for free, first of all, by liking the video, sharing it with your family and friends, dropping a comment below, and subscribing to the channel and helping me get to 7,000 subscribers. I'd like to get to 7,000 subscribers by the end of the calendar year. Also, if you want to support me financially, join Couz's Corner. Become a member of the exclusive VIP club. You can be a pub level member. Get your name on the list that's scrolling along the bottom of the screen now. Shout out to my newest channel members, Heath Stokes, Alice Stokes, and Matthew 1981. Thank you all for joining my channel here. Hopefully, you will take advantage of the perks there. Also, you can become a club level member, which is the second level, which is the $4.99 level. Those are scrolling along the bottom of the screen as well. If you hit the join button, it'll go over all the perks with you of being a member. But one of the perks that's not mentioned because YouTube doesn't allow it are the contests that I do here. Right now, I'm doing a score prediction contest for the Pitt and West Virginia game. Send me your score prediction for that game to my email at couz.walker@gmail.com. And this is open only to channel members now. But send that to my email with your score prediction. If $5 gets you in the contest, if you are a club level member, you get to send me 2 predictions. Pub level, you send me 1 for $5. Winner gets a $25 prize, assuming we have enough people into the contest, obviously. If not, I'll give you your money back. But nonetheless, get in the contest. $5 gets you 1 pick for 1 score prediction for pub level, 2 score predictions for club level. The tiebreaker game, just in case the other one's a tie, is the TCU Houston game. So send me predictions for that as well, along with $5 to my PayPal, Venmo, Cash App, which are all in the description box. You can also check out my merch store, check out the Fanatics link, or you can give me a one-time donation by hitting the heart thanks button or one of the ways I mentioned earlier. That being said, I really appreciate you tuning into this episode. I appreciate your support. And until the next episode, Q Country Roads.